Good morning and happy Thursday. This is Don Chakowski with Fidelity National Title, and we are excited to bring you the latest installment of Market of the Moment. We really need to work on like choreographing that all together, guys, where we can all say Market of the Moment in like one harmony.
That'd be good.
I think that would be pretty awesome. So I am really excited for today as I am clicking on a couple of Facebook buttons to make sure we're out to the world. And but I'm really excited for our guest today, Tom, and we're going to be circling back to him shortly. But I would like to make sure I introduce our recurring panel first. So we're going to start with Miss Mindy Jones, the owner of the Amy Jones Group, also known as Market Master Mindy. Good morning, Mindy.
Good morning, guys. Excited to talk about inventory.
Excellent. And then we have Miss Amber Nearly Free Money Kovarik of Guild Mortgage. Good morning, Amber.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
And then, of course, Sharon, the Boss Lady Trahoon.
Oh, Sharon. Title. Here we go. Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. Looking forward to
I'm just usually just regular Don. So, the last name is enough taxing on everybody as it is. So, so this week, we are really excited. And I know Mindy's really excited because of, the inventory issues and how Mr. Tom Fernandez from Raven is going to be helping us out on that. So good morning, Tom. Thank you for making time. I know you've got a lot going on in your world. So thank you so much for making the time to join us this morning.
Of course, my pleasure. I'm looking forward to it.
So for those of you guys who aren't familiar with Tom and Raven, I'm going to let Tom kind of go through and do a description here in a moment. But this is a product that Amber is actually bringing to us, and with her partnership with Guild and Raven and Fidelity, that we're all able to make this connection and help people get connected. So Tom, I'm going to kind of let you run with it, kind of give an overview, and then we're going to pepper you with questions afterwards.
That sounds good, Don. I'm ready. So let me go ahead and share my screen so we get some visuals as we kind of make our way through the info. So I'm going to click share. Okay. Let's get this started. All right, are you guys seeing this?
There we go. So yeah, looks like we have your whole desktop there. Yep, there we go.
There we go, perfect. All right. So yeah, we are gonna talk about Raven and give you guys just a little bit of background on Raven, who we are, what we're doing. So we started out, whoops, let me back up here, guys. We started out as a team of agents in Southern California. And I was in the lending business before I got into real estate, but we developed this application. We were using it for our own team. Really was helping us dominate our local market, Huntington Harbor. And we were basically just really focused on matching up our potential sellers and upcoming listings with our own buyers. And so in 2017, Stanfield Real Estate Team ended up doing 600 million. So it's a Real Trends top 10, in large teams, real top performer. We went on and basically rolled out our application to the rest of the brokerage. It's the Pacific Sotheby's, again, in Orange County. We were able to get a large sum of those agents on the platform, using it as their internal needs, wants, and plug system. Ended up having 65 closed transactions in 2019 that came through the platform. So from there, we kind of spun the company out or spun the application out into its own company. So now we're Raven, and we went on to really build an open platform for buyer and seller matchmaking within a network of agents. And so in a nutshell, that's kind of the company past and our whole story. But let's get into how this really affects agents now in the local marketplace, which really the whole goal here is to help agents close more deals or convert more leads into actual closed deals with what we call Raven Pro. And so if I just kind of proceed right straight through it, Raven is both a market and a network of agents. And this is an invitation-only network of verified realtors and loan officers. Happy to report Amber recently joined the network, and so basically anyone that's listening or watching this show can join the network with Amber. You all are invited. And essentially, once you as an agent join our network, you get access to our platform. That's going to give you access to data that's going to help you with your conversion. So I'm going to step through and explain some of the slides and some of the screens in that regard. So I mentioned this just a minute ago. We have developed an open platform for nationwide buyer and seller matchmaking in real time. So our whole goal here is to just empower the local agent community with their own data. If, regardless of where you are in the country, what brand or brokerage you're with, if you have, a matching buyer and seller, we want to connect you on the platform. That's really our simple goal. We're here to preserve the traditional real estate model and do what we can to empower agents with tech to really kind of fend off the forces of disintermediation from various folks that are putting pressure on the traditional real estate model. So we go through this deck and have shared a lot of these images in the past, but I just want to explain here. I think this one helps. If you can think of Raven as really like a digitized version of needs, wants, and plugs, and I'm assuming pretty much all agents are familiar with that process in your typical office meeting, going around the room, sharing upcoming listings and coming soon listings and things like that, or plugging those listings, right? And then talking about the buyer needs and wants of the buyers that you're looking for. So our system does that extremely well. It's mobile app based. It works in real time, and we actually do automated matching. So you don't need to keep logging into the system to check and look on things. Essentially, if there's a match with one of your buyers or there's a match with one of your sellers, we're gonna push some notifications to you and some emails so you're aware of that, and essentially get you connected with the agent on the other side. So some specific use cases here and why really agents and brokers and teams like using Raven, is helps them convert more seller leads into signed listings, among other things. But let's just talk about that for a second. So what's pretty unique and really what I think promotes the dating app reference or analogy that we get is we allow agents to input any property they want into our platform. This can be done through the app or through the web interface. And the input of the property would be in the scenario of a listing lead, nothing more than a prospective seller. Maybe it's a FSBO, an expired that you're calling on, or someone from your farm. So you would input that property into Raven, enable matching. And what that's going to do is, first off, the property itself is always going to be hidden, not viewable by anybody on the system until you, the agent who added that property, want to make it viewable by others. Okay, so I can't emphasize that enough. The default status when you add a property into our system is that it's private. Only you can see it. But what you can see are who the other agents are on the network that have a matching potential buyer. So this is, very Bumble-like. And I'll just share a story with you. Founder of the company built this to model Bumble. That is how he met his wife. So just so you know. But the point here is you can see the
quick question. So when Mindy made a remark before we went live, it's kind of like a dating service for real estate, then it really kind of is. So
it really is. That's where we're coming from. And it's what's good about that is, it's relevant, it's appropriate, obviously, in this use case, because the agent doesn't, really can't share this property information. That wouldn't make sense. It's not under contract yet, right? But there's a ton of power, it's powerful data to go and share this information and leverage this data with the potential, with the homeowner, this potential new seller. And that's how we used it as a team. That's how agents are using it now. And so, in that conversation, it might sound something like, I have 20 or 30 agents in my network that I can reach out to today. And you can reach out to the other agents through the app. You're going to be able to connect with them, have access to their contact information, et cetera. And again, leveraging that information in your conversation with that homeowner, really powerful. Often it gets them off the fence and gets them signed. And that's the whole point. From there, we want you to go through your traditional route of getting that property sold, get it in the MLS, get it sold the traditional means, right? Or the traditional way. Now, in addition to that, when it does come time to share property information with other agents, you have a couple of options. And so basically, I always coach that the demarcation point between not sharing and sharing would be once you get it under contract, right? Now, once you get it under contract, you have some options here. You could share with my brokerage only, meaning all of the other agents just within your own brokerage and nobody else, right? Or just all brokerages, meaning all agents on the entire platform. So that's just always in the hands and up to the agent who input that property. Okay, so this is attractive for brokers. This is attractive for teams because, again, this gives them a way to really, leverage their own upcoming inventory, potentially try and pre-sell it before it even makes its way into the MLS. All right, guys. Also, just super relevant right now, finding inventory. We all know inventory is a massive issue. So on the buy side of things, agents can input a buyer need. It's really fast and easy. Put it right through the app. You put in a price range, location. We have all sorts of options for them. They can be as specific as they want with their criteria or as broad. And we don't require a bunch of information on the actual buyer. We just need like a first name, and you could even use initials if you wanted to. But essentially, you'd put in that buyer need. Our system's going to go through, find matches, obviously properties that match that buyer criteria. We're going to look through active MLS listings because we've integrated with the local MLS there in Arizona. Actually, both of them, Air MLS and the MLS of Southern Arizona. But it's also going to search through all of the other listings that I would just say would fall outside of the MLS. Lots of different scenarios there. But basically, it's going to search through everything and send you notifications when the system finds something that's matching that criteria. Now, I got to say, what's also happening in that scenario is the agents who have upcoming properties that are matching your criteria, they are able to see who you are and can reach out and connect with you through the platform. So even if you're not finding something on your own in terms of an immediate response, of like an off-market property or a coming soon based on your criteria, it's still really important that you put the buyer need in because you will be, or can be, I should say, contacted by other agents who may have that upcoming inventory. And so those kinds of conversations and offline networking, that's happening because our network is sort of bringing them together in the first place.
Tom, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I know you mentioned, that obviously it sweeps through MLS, and then you mentioned and several other resources. I know that's a question that we're going to get. Can you give us any insight on? I'm sure some of it's some secret sauce. I don't know, but maybe some other ideas of where that data, that information on listings might be coming from.
Yeah, so it's going to be coming from the agents themselves. That's always going to be the source of those listings, additional listings coming into the system. So the listing hypes, if you will, could be coming soon, right? We do have agents who are actually inputting signed listings that are in coming soon status if they'd like. It might be, an actual signed off market where the the consumer or the client is just chosen not to go in the MLS.
So would that be considered a FSBO resource that you're inputting through FSBO for sale by owners?
It could be a FSBO. It could be anybody who just, there are some scenarios for some sellers where they just don't want to go through the whole MLS process and have their home blasted all over the internet and stuff like that, and for various privacy reasons or whatever the scenario might be. So it could be that. It could also just be maybe an office exclusive if that seems appropriate for that home seller, because there's some limitations in terms within the MLS. Office exclusives really wouldn't be viewable, and that type of a listing doesn't have to be shared with all the agents in the MLS, right? Just the agents within your own office. So there are different scenarios there that play out. But even before we get into those specifics, I would say pretty much all listings start out as just a lead or a conversation. And when you put that into our system and enable matching, that's just going to open up the door to you being able to connect with agents that have buyers. So you can just kind of promote those conversations, right? That's at the end of the day what we're trying to do.
I mean, any continued communication or supportive communication amongst professionals in this type of a market, I think benefits everybody. I think we're seeing a lot of what you mentioned, which is we do have clients that are interested in selling their home. And I don't know that it's so much privacy concerns that keep them from wanting to go to the market. It's just general fears of the unknown, what it's like to have so many people come through your home, even though we're doing a lot of work to consolidate that. Many of our clients, we're only putting them on the market for a weekend. So they just need to find somewhere to be for a weekend, or even sometimes only an open house for a couple of hours or whatever it might be. So we're limiting, the disruption to their lives in that way. But for some of them, that's still too much. They feel comfortable with having someone broker a personal relationship with somebody else, and I think this is a great other opportunity to do that. I also think when it comes to strategizing price, we're doing a lot more communicating with agents than we ever have had to with these coming soon listings and under contract and pending listings. As a professional, I've always talked to the agents who are under contract in a neighborhood that I'm getting ready to list to find out what they will share with me of what they have. But today that's very important because the list price could very well be $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 different from what they're under contract on. So I'm not going to list a house based on apparent list prices, right? I've got to get some more details because I need to know when they close, they could be 10, 20% higher than what it looked like in the list price. And my new listing's got to stay up with that. So I think this tool allows for that additional communication that occurs when people are just kind of starting to test the waters.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an awesome point. Thank you, Mindy, for putting that out there. Appreciate it. I think that makes tons of sense. Okay, well, let's move on. Let's, for folks who are watching, just know our program does integrate with other programs. And so if you're using like a Follow Up Boss or Real Geeks or Sync or Boomtown, all those types of systems, they can be connected to Raven to streamline that process of getting buyer and sellers in and out of Raven. So it doesn't all have to be a manual process. And one thing I really should have mentioned a few slides ago, any agent that joins and becomes a member and you have active MLS listings, your active listings will auto-populate into our platform by default. And so that happens within maybe a day after you joining. So there's no manual entry for active listings, just so you know. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about signing up. Just so you guys know, you can sign up. Any agent is invited to sign up and join us, and you can join us, and we would recommend that you sign up through Amber's link here. So joinraven.com/the Kovarik team. And so let's talk a little bit about the nuances and the extra benefits that you as an agent will get when you sign up through Amber. Okay? Now, Amber's recently joined our network, and so we'll go through and talk about that. But essentially, from the agent's perspective, when you click Amber's link and it's time to sign up, you'll be taken to a page that looks just like this. We have a short video here that just explains what Raven is, what we're trying to accomplish. why this is beneficial for you as an agent to join the network. And there are some extra specific or special benefits that you get as an agent when you sign up through Amber or another loan officer partner if you have one. Sign up process is really quite simple and painless. It's going to be basic information, where you're located, and I believe we also ask for your MLS ID so we can bring in your active listings. And so what happens is once you sign up and become a member through Amber, or again, who your loan officer partner might be, there's a couple extra things that get unlocked in our program. So we have a direct-to-client facing search portal here. We refer to this as the Raven Pro search portal. And this is a feature that we've been offering for maybe a year now. If an agent joins Raven directly, not through their lender partner, this is a feature that you would need to upgrade your account and unlock, and this has a monthly subscription cost of about $40 a month. Okay, and what this gets you is a private search portal experience that you can offer to your buyers. It includes active MLS listings, but it will also include that extra inventory that we described a few minutes ago. All right, so it is an extra large pool of inventory that you can make available to your buyers. And so for you as an agent, this makes it really easy and streamlined to share properties from the Raven platform with your clients. All right, now again, if you join through Amber, then this feature gets unlocked for you at no extra cost. So some extra goodies there for you to sign up and join through Amber. This portal will be unlocked for you. It's unlimited usage. Your branding as an agent will be on every single listing in our platform, and it will have Amber's branding on the financing tab on every single listing as well. Okay, so this is a co-branded search portal for you to share property information with your buyers. Remember, it's going to have all the listings in the MLS plus more. We send listing alerts just like you might be using the MLS, setting people up on a saved search. This does exactly the same, but often we get better feedback regarding the user experience. Super easy to use. There is no app download or installation. It's just tap a link and you're off and running, and it's really quite slick. So that is one of the benefits that you get. In addition to that, as you use the Raven app, again, from the agent's perspective, this really helps streamline the pre-qual process. If you're working with Amber, working with your lender partner, and you add a buyer into the system, put in the price range, the location, etc., you're basically going to be sharing and notifying that buyer information with Amber, or again, whoever your lender partner is. And so we have teams, lenders and agent teams that essentially are just work among the common agreement that, look, when you see that I put buyers into the system here, know that I want you to reach out and pre-qual those buyers, right? So this really kind of replaces one-off emails or texts or whatever to reach out to this buyer, this person, and that sort of a thing. Everything's nicely organized, and the two of you will be able to be in sync with what your buyer is doing on the platform as the buyer uses the portal. So you guys will see, which properties they like, which ones they're not really interested in, and then of course, which ones they really want to go after and schedule showings for. I think some other things that are important for you from an agent's perspective is that you're always in control of the buyers and the contact information that you want to share with the lender. We all understand not every single buyer deal may be appropriate to share with your lender. Maybe it's a cash buyer or some other scenario. So you as an agent are always in control of, again, which buyers you want to share with your lender, but that is an automated thing that is built into the platform. And so again, the sign up, and I think Don has probably put this in the chat system, but joinraven.com/the Kovarik team, and that's how you would get started. Don, I'm going to stop sharing here.
I was going to say I might be on mute.
Yeah,
so
I'm on mute. I'm talking away over here. So
for all of you watching, I want you to know there's only one lender that's out there, and that's Amber Kovarik. And so you only want to get your head in one. It doesn't matter. There are no other lenders. It's Amber. So if you're watching this today, the only reason you're being offered this today is because of Amber. So
yeah,
that is true.
And you know, and I think that you know the value that Amber and her team bring is just incredible. And this is one of those things that they're making this where you don't have to pay, you know, for that pro version. And Amber, thank you for doing this, and thank you for your willingness to share this with us today.
It's awesome. Yeah, what a great gift.
I'm so excited about it.
So Tom, I want to kind of dig in a little bit to some of the hidden inventory things, because I think that is probably the hottest topic in our market right now is how do I access things that others can't see? How do I help get my buyers under contract? At the same time, how do I do the best for my buyers? And I think you hit on a little bit of it there, and Mindy was mentioning that as well, is that there's a lot of different reasons why people might not want a bunch of people trekking through their home right now. And we see lines around the block to go to open houses and things like that. And if I were a seller, I think that could be pretty intimidating, right? How do you make sure all your stuff, who's going to supervise all these people when they're in the house? Who's going to make sure, you know, that that my privacy is being respected and all of that? And so, you know, these offers that are coming out even on off-market properties are still amazing offers. And so it's not like when somebody chooses to sell off-market that they are missing out on anything, because there is still a great opportunity to sell at a great price. So I kind of wanted to start off with that we're not doing a disservice to anybody when a property is sold off market. Secondly, the concerns about the NAR and the AAR rules around properties being advertised before they are in the MLS. I know a lot of people have brought up that concern. You and I have had conversations about that. But the reality is that we're not giving out any of that information that violates those rules in this process. Correct, Tom?
Yeah, that's exactly right. The default state or status, I guess if you want to think of it that way, of the properties that the agents add into the system is that it's private, it's hidden, no one can see it. And yeah, we don't operate a direct-to-consumer website or model. That's not what we're doing. So when you add a property into our platform, it is really the equivalent of just writing down and no one's going to it and find it. However, as we discussed, you can see, you know, who those agents are that you should probably reach out to when, you know, as soon as you get that listing signed.
So if I know that Mindy has something coming to market, so really what this does is it might tell me that Mindy has something that fits my client's wishes, right? It might be checking off the boxes for them. It's not hitting the market until May 1st. But my people are ready they're willing to work with timelines. They're willing to do what they need to do to get the right house. Really, the tool for me in here is to reach out to Mindy and say, you know, listen, I've got folks, they're willing to write a top dollar offer right now. You know, they'll work with your clients on time frames as far as closing or moving out or post possession or whatever that needs to look like. But is there any way that we might be able to access this now? And all that's still within the rules. And Mindy, correct me if I'm wrong here, because you know more about this than me.
So I am going to wholly stay out of the compliance conversation with this, okay. But what I will speak to from a consumer perspective is what you said, Don, about are we doing a disservice to our clients by selling it off market? And what I think is really important to pause on that sentence is we are doing what our clients want us to do. Our clients are the ones that are directing and making the choices about what path they take to get their home sold. Our job is to give them the options and the different ways in which we could take them to market. it is in their realm to say, one, what they're comfortable with, two, what helps them to achieve their goals, and three, what their own risk reward balance system looks like. You have plenty of clients who say, if I can get this number in this type of a selling environment, I don't need to take it onto the open market. And you'll have other people that say, I know I could get this. There's a chance I could get this, and I would like to try to get that. So I think that's just something that we always want to be clarifying in the type of market that we're in. As more products come out, as more options come out, as more pathways come out to getting your home sold, the consumer is always in charge of which of those paths we take. Our job is to provide them with all the solutions and to make sure that we are providing them with all of the solutions.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's a huge point, Mindy. I mean, that was, again, part of the genesis of creating the application in the first place, was to serve the needs of our clients. And that, you know, become that trusted advisor, provide the options, discuss the pros and cons, and then, you know, let the client guide you in terms of the path they want to go down. And so that is just good. That's just, to me, that's just part of being a human. So.
Yeah. So, what about, and I don't know, this is just a thought, right? So this might be one where everybody cringes after I say it, but so this happens to me every so often. But so if I were in a listing appointment and the sellers were maybe on the fence, right? They didn't really know, and they said, you know, if I just, you know, if I could just know that this house would have that right interest at that right price level, I could. Would it be something that I could post into Raven and see what kind of results I get, who's reaching out to me? Again, respecting the confidentiality of the property and the client involved, but where I'm just able to kind of run a little test out there and then giving that feedback without going to market, without signing contracts. You know, I've got a 4-bedroom, 2-bath in Gilbert with a pool, single story, 3-car garage. You know, we're probably going to be looking to go in the mid 5s. You know, what kind of interest would I have out there? Who would be interested in, you know, and where I test it. This format would work for that as well, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just described the typical make me move type of seller. They're on the fence. They don't really have to sell, but they would be willing to sell for the right price and the right terms. You know, we dealt with a bunch of those people in our market. And so, yeah, put in that property, turn on the matching system. Again, the property's completely private. You know, no one can see the address. No one would have any idea who the homeowners are. But just you, the agent, consulting with your client, would be able to start gathering some information. You know, what kind of interest are we getting at this price? And exactly who are those agents? And it's not, the one thing I always like to point out, because there's other systems in the market that will provide like high level analytics regarding buyer demand, right? But it's all typically anonymous. And it might be related to, hey, we've had 200 people on our website over the last 30 days looking for properties like yours or something similar to that. This is much different. It's actionable for the agent. You can literally reach out and contact those agents. And so it becomes more tangible, I think. It's more of a tangible benefit and data for the agent.
Excellent. So, and then of course, you know, now that agent can go back to their potential seller and say, so I did a little test out there to see what kind of interest. I had 40 people reach out to me in the first 2 hours that I posted this. You know, does that help you in your decision making, right? And they're probably saying, okay, well, let's raise the price and let's hit the market. But
yeah. Let's see if we can get more.
yeah. So excellent. Okay. Well, did anybody else have any questions for Tom? I know you've got to go, Tom. So I just wanted to check in, make sure before we let you go. Anybody else have any other questions? All right, my friend. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it. and we're excited to see this rolling out. And for those of you guys who are watching today, either in the recording or watching us live, this is not a clickable link here, but it is clickable in the comments, and I posted that on all of our different streaming services for this. So again, Tom, thank you, appreciate it, and hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Tom.
Same to you, Don, Sharon, Amber, Mindy. Appreciate your time, and we'll look forward to talking soon. Y'all take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, well, that was great. And Amber, thank you again for bringing us this resource. I am excited to see how it's going to get leveraged in our community, and we'll make sure we revisit this topic every so often, I think, and that we continue to make sure people are aware of this, what's going on out there.
Yeah. It is interesting. Some of what you're talking about, we are doing, and I think probably any agent that's really active in today's market is doing, but that idea of putting the feelers out there, a lot of times we're doing that when it comes to terms. So you'll have a client who says, hey, I'm totally into selling my house right now. I'd rather not risk, what kind of changes there are going to be to the market. I'd rather do it right now. I'm good with the price point, but I really need a 6-month lease back because I'm building a house or whatever it might be. And so then we'll post, like even in our own office, we'll say, hey, we've got, a 4.2 in Gilbert around 500 with a pool, but they're going to need a 6-month lease back. Do you have anybody that would, go on record as saying, yes, I would do that? And then if you get 4, 5, 6 people, which is what, typically happens, then we go back to the seller and say, hey, we've got a pool of people for you. So would you like them to see it, or you want to go to market? But either way, here's kind of what your test scenario, produced.
Yeah, and Mindy, and I'm fortunate because I get to see a lot of that happening within your dialogue group, and I love it. I think that watching the network of people working together is just amazing, and I think that this is something that helps to expand that, right? So we've got that network, which your office is great at, but not all offices are created equal, and not everybody's in that situation. So this is a way that we can help to bring that value to more folks. So Amber, again, thank you so much for bringing this to us, and thank you so much for asking Tom to come on and speak today. So we are excited, though, also to talk about your money, and so what is it looking like out there, and what should people be expecting?
Yeah, thank you so much. Interest rates over the last 4 trading days, we've started to see a little bit of improvement, meaning that interest rates have been getting a little bit better every day, which has been a really nice relief to see that. Today is kind of a big day because we're butting up against a resistance point in the bond market. So if we can break above that and close above that, there's a chance that we're going to continue to see a little rally in interest rates and have them go down. And I think that's really just happening because they went up so fast, and anything that goes up that quickly, it's just not sustainable. So it's kind of normalizing a little bit. But I do think that if they do go down, it's going to be somewhat short-lived. I think that the trend of interest rates is that they will be going higher. And the reason for that is really we have 2 independent forces that are causing that. And one is just an economy that is starting to recover. And as we continue to see a recovering economy and additional spending, it's going to create inflation, and we will see interest rates go up. That's a normal, natural force. The other one's going to be more of an artificial force, which is the fact that we still have the Federal Reserve manipulating the market and buying our mortgage-backed securities. We know that's going to end. We just don't know exactly when. So as they are starting to end that, if at the same time the economy is recovering, which those two kind of go hand in hand, that's going to cause interest rates to drive up, fairly quickly. And so assuming interest rates drop here a little bit, maybe in the next week or 2, it's a really good time for any of our refinance clients that missed the mark to jump in now. But we keep reminding our purchase clients that overall we're in an increasing interest rate environment, and you cannot time the interest rate market. You're going to buy the home because it's the right home at the right time and you have an offer accepted, we don't know where interest rates are going. And so we're just talking about, what does that look like? What does a 0.25% rise in interest rates do to your affordability and your payment? And most clients, they realize like, oh, it's not that much money, you know, like just having the education around it isn't so scary, but it's also a good reason to buy now. Like, we know the interest rates are lower now than they're likely going to be as the year progresses on. So now's the time to jump in and take advantage, and then just keep an eye on things. But the Federal Reserve has been pretty transparent in saying that a recovered economy to them, and when they think they'll pull out of the mortgage-backed security purchases, is inflation somewhere in the, unemployment somewhere in the 4 to 5% range, and inflation hitting just right above that 2% range. And so we'll keep an eye on those two things as well. But interest rates are still at historic levels. We say that every week. It's still an incredible time to buy and take advantage of a market where you're going to have such great appreciation into the home.
Yeah.
Amber, can I steal you for a quick second? Just a question I'm getting from a lot of people right now, because we've seen prices go up so much in the last year. If they got into a house, but they got a really low interest rate, and so they don't necessarily want to do a refinance because their interest rate is good, but maybe they only put a little money down, what options do they have to get their mortgage insurance to fall off? I just think this is a good kind of platform to have that conversation, because I think that's a real big question we're getting right now.
Yeah, it is. It's a great question. So the guidelines around mortgage insurance is that you have to keep it for a minimum of 2 years. And at the 2-year mark, you have to be at a 25% equity position. So if you only put a little bit down, you're probably not there. But if you put 10% plus down, you could be at that level. And that's really a phone call to your servicer, whoever you're making your payments to, and just letting them know you'd like to look into the opportunity to remove mortgage insurance without a refinance. But if you're not at that 2-year mark, unless you can show that you've done like substantial improvements to the property to raise the price, or that you've paid the loan down to reach an 80% loan to value based off of the original value, you're not going to have it removed before the 2-year mark.
Okay, so a good time to have a conversation with your lender or your real estate partner, just to see kind of what options you have, knowing that values have changed so much. Is it a refinance option? Is that an option? Is going out and buying an option? Whatever that might be, but enough of market value change in your greatest asset to be having this conversation right now.
Yeah, and it'll just be an analysis on your mortgage insurance and how much are you paying in mortgage insurance and what is the rate difference, and just looking at the cost of the refinance versus the savings, and what's your recoup period, and how long does your crystal ball tell you think that you might be in this house for, and just seeing if it's something that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So on the subject of refinancing and all of that, and I know it's really hard, there's so many variables that go into somebody's decision on this. So if somebody were like in the like say it's like 3 1/3 on an interest rate right now, they're probably best staying put unless there's other variables like cash out, that kind of stuff that they need to do. And then they're looking at a higher rate when they're going to be doing that kind of activity anyway, right? So do you have like a number where you're like, when somebody says that number to you, you're like, oh no, we need to sit down and talk?
Yeah, we usually look for somewhere around like a 0.75% rate reduction on a refinance. Somewhere between like 0.75 and 1% is a good, kind of average to look for in a savings. But again, maybe you can pay off a little bit of debt as well through that and eliminate some very high interest rate credit cards, and you're only dropping your rate 0.5% or something, but about a 0.75 to 1%. So we have clients calling in every day that are at like 3.375 or 3.5, and they want to refinance, and it's like a 0.25% reduction, and it just doesn't make enough sense. And so we just have to pencil that out for them. So.
Okay, so the messaging I'm collecting from Amber is, if you were thinking about buying, buy. Rates are so really good. If your rate is more than 0.75 of a point, then you're probably even at that half point you should be calling and checking, right? Because there are other variables that might come into play for you. So such as mortgage insurance and those kind of things that might be able to get removed from a refi. that would be helpful. So those points are where Amber's phone should be ringing, and then if you had a chance to watch the beginning and saw the information on Raven, then you should be getting involved with that with Amber as well. So okay.
For sure.
Excellent. Well, Amber, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for your partnership. We love having you on each week. So this is great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so Mindy, what's going on out there? How are we doing?
Yeah, so first of all, I love that update because I think that right now so much of the conversation for our clients has to start around the qualification piece. It has to start around the money piece because this is not a market that you can just kind of dip your toe into. You've got to be wholly ready. And in order to be ready, you've got to be emotionally and financially ready. And if you're trying to do the emotional and the financial at the same time, one, it's going to be a lot for you. And two, it's going to be hard to feel confident to make some of these big, fast choices if you haven't had a little bit of time to ruminate on it. So what we want is we want you to be having these conversations regularly. Amber does not mind if you call her once a month and say, hey gal, how's things look? Hey gal, how things look? That's okay. So for the consumers out there, if it's been a while since you've talked with your real estate agent, and if you don't remember their phone number, I'll give you mine. But if it's been a while since you've talked to someone important in this space, you need to do that and have that be a pretty regular check-in that you're doing with them so that if your life circumstances change, if something happens to pop up in your neighborhood that you're like, oh, I've always loved that house, you can make those quick moves because it's already been something that your family has been talking about. So that is my biggest piece of advice right now. I will talk to anybody about anything, not because necessarily they're going to make a change right now, but because this is a journey, this is a process. And when you need to make a choice, you're going to have to do it quickly. So spend the prep time, right? Getting educated, getting comfortable. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for that update. When we look at what's happening in the market, the luxury market is continuing to be on fire. We had a great update here on Market of the Moment a couple of weeks ago from an agent that specialized in the luxury industry. And she talked really a lot about how folks are not doing the type of traveling that they're typically doing. And they really want their home to be that resort style home. So we're seeing greater square footage properties with more land and more space. We're seeing custom builds on larger lots. And we really continue to see more of the same there. We're still seeing a lot of influx of folks from out of state who are selling from higher price point locations. If we look at all the dwelling types across the greater Phoenix area, the total closed listing count for these listings above $1 million was 557. And if we look at the total in March of 2020 was just 265. So a little over double, right, of what we typically see. And March was already a record. March of 2020 was a record. Now we far surpassed that at 557. And if you go to the boom year, right, in 2005, there were actually only 202 houses the entire year that closed over $1 million. So obviously prices have gone up since then, but the sheer volume of what's living in that luxury space and moving, it's really on fire. So I expect to see some continued trajectory of that. So that's a good kind of thing to note. We've also seen some change in the Cromford Market Index, which is how we calculate the gap, if you will, between supply, so what's actually available on the market, and demand, how much people actually want. And so we've seen kind of a shrinking of that space between supply and demand, meaning that the hotness, if you will, of the seller's market has started to go down. However, it's going down so incrementally slowly that it's not anything that a consumer, anybody here watching will feel. What you are starting to feel is pockets or neighborhoods that are responding to the market differently. So I'll give you reference to one client in Gilbert. Every house that has sold in there in the last 3 weeks has sold for $50,000 to $75,000 higher than the previous one. Model matches. 50,000 higher, 75,000 higher. When you see that type of a momentum in your neighborhood, that's the time to latch on to that. You don't want to wait and let that go. We expect prices to continue to rise through the end of the year, but I've got other neighborhoods where I'm selling just right at list price. or you're getting 1 or 2 offers. And it doesn't mean that anything's wrong, because trust me, that list price is higher than the last house that sold in the neighborhood. So the houses are not getting cheaper, but the feeling or the frenzy or the momentum, it feels different in different neighborhoods. And when you start to see that, where it's not the exact same across the board, and then you also see the shrinking of the gap between supply and demand, however small, those are early indications that at some point it will not be as easy for sellers to sell their house. It doesn't mean the prices will go down. It doesn't mean you're going to sell less than your neighbor did anytime in 2021. It just means you're not going to have this same level of frenzy, if you will, that you have right now. So we're paying very, very close attention to those changes and then guiding our sellers' timing based on that. If you need to buy, if you're not just selling, for example, you haven't already bought, if you need to buy, you need to get that train moving now, because the driver is not the selling side. The driver is the buying side, right? That's where your greatest risk, if you will, is the buying side. So if you have to buy and sell, now is the time to start that train moving. If you've already bought or you're not buying, right? Either it's a rental or you already bought a new build and you're trying to time the selling process, you have some options there. So that's where you really need to be working with someone who's so finely in tune with what's happening in the market that not only can they gauge for you that feeling of what's happening in your neighborhood, but they also know these very slight changes to the market. So if we're talking the difference between today and 60 days from today, that's going to be a conversation that you really need to have from a strategy perspective. So it's just a lot to ask consumers to try and figure this out their own. I mean, even while Amber's talking, right, I went and I looked at my mortgage rate on the houses we have, and I'm looking, I mean, everyone's trying to run these numbers, right? And it's exhausting, and they don't really even know what they're doing. They're just trying to take all the pieces of information that they can get. So it's so important that you reach out to somebody and you have these strategy conversations with them to produce the best outcome in this type of a market.
For sure. I just have a question. I guess this is kind of geared towards Mindy and Amber. Any update on what's going on in the appraisal world? Are we seeing any contracts canceling because, you know, the appraisal is not coming through and the folks don't have extra money? I mean, are we seeing that, or because there's so many homes selling and with elevated prices that the appraisals are catching up to qualifying at a higher price? You know what I'm saying? On the comps.
So I'll tell you what I see, and then Amber obviously will have a perspective that's, you know, broader and more geographically broad. For us, I have been surprised in general how well the appraisals have kept up. Mm-hmm. There have been times where I have prepared my sellers and said, there's no way, so let's just be prepared. Typically, we've got our waivers or we've protected for that. But then the appraisal comes in. And so there definitely I have been surprised at how few issues we've had. We also, when we take offers from people that waive appraisals, we ask for, again, that terminology is important too. You're not waiving an appraisal. What you're waiving is the requirement for you to pay over appraised value. So that's important. Because not all agents understand, right, those two things. But when we do take that, we're asking for proof of funds. So we're asking for proof of funds that show, in addition to you having down payment funds and closing cost funds, that you also have 50 or 60 or whatever it is that you're telling us you'll pay. So we aren't having those, right, those kinds of issues. But I would tell you that in the last probably 2 or 3 weeks, I have started to see appraisals be a little wonky. And I've run into more appraisers who feel a responsibility to the future and say things like, when we had a market problem before, people blamed us for what happened. And so we're going to be, and I know, because I always meet our appraisers at our properties, I know when I start to hear that, I will likely have a problem. And I've had 2 appraisals that have come in not at market value. So I'm talking not over. I just mean not where they really should have come in, significantly lower. And
Right.
the only thing that I can say is that I think that that's coming from someone trying to interject their own,
beliefs.
I know there's rules, and but I also know that the appraisal industry is not a hard and fast system. There is not a book. There is not a book that says granite is $10,000 and an extra garage bay is $5,000. I mean, there's things that we talk about, but that doesn't exist. And so there's always going to be a human element in that.
Right.
And I'm seeing that a little bit more over the last couple of weeks than I had been year to date.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And Amber, are you seeing on that as well?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I don't get to talk to the appraiser, so it's interesting to hear what Mindy has to say about that. But I agree that I'm surprised on the number that are coming in, but we're also like just preparing every client for what if it doesn't come in, and that's when we're talking about leveraging mortgage insurance to make up that gap. And I'm really showing clients how they can go in way over appraised value if they need or want to win that house. And I can, on average on a $500,000 sales price, if someone was putting 20% down, I could show them how they could go 25,000 over appraised value, not list price, but like what Mindy would say, here's my best estimate of where it might appraise. 25,000 over appraised value, and it'll cost them $1,700 out of pocket through leveraging mortgage insurance. So getting really strategic on, you can go over, and as long as we keep your cash to close and payment where you're comfortable, let's go win and start you on this appreciation train and continuing to, fight out there. So
yeah, I agree.
It's so great. I get to be on here with so many problem solvers all the time. And I love it. No, but seriously though, I love the fact that we get to talk about how to overcome these challenges that if it's a slow market, there's challenges. If it's a hot market, there's challenges, and we have to be adaptable and figure out how we're going to work with that. So, okay. So as we're wrapping up, Mindy, you've got a big event coming up next weekend, correct?
Yes. Thank you. I'm so excited about this. We are doing a drive-in movie at Schnepp Farms next Friday night. That's the 16th. And it's going to be so much fun. We are showing Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I don't know if I said this last week, but it is the original because I don't do remakes. And it's going to be so fun. We're going to have food trucks. We're going to have raffle prizes. Someone will get the golden ticket. And we're going all out. It's going to be a great time. We thought that this would be a really fun way to get everybody together, still give people some space if they're more comfortable staying in their own cars. Otherwise, get out, talk to people. It should be a ton of fun. So open to everybody. You can get the link if you go to our Facebook page and sign up for the event there. We've got some room left. We're just about a week out. So we've got some spots left. So first come, first serve. We would absolutely love to see you out there next Friday night.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your insight each week. I know, Mindy, we're going to be missing you next week. That we're going to let you have a day off, but we try not to do that very frequently. But thank you, and we're going to have Miss Melanie Sanders filling in. And for those of you guys that don't know Melody, she is another incredible agent. She's in Scottsdale. She has always such great insight into the market. I was fortunate enough to be at a dinner with her last week, and I was just like, gosh, she is great. So and then Kevin Kaufman of 4610 is going to be our guest, and Kevin is going to be talking about some of his podcast activities and ways of sharing and what he gets from those. I was with Kevin earlier this week, and we were just talking about the learning that he gets from the ability to do those things, and I thought it was incredible. So he's going to be sharing some of those experiences, as well as some of the next level agent things that he does. So we're really excited to have him. Thank you all. Thanks everybody. And we look forward to being back next week. Mindy, enjoy your week off away from us.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
definitely. Thanks, Don. Thank you. Take care.